Hi folks, Steve from Martell Training Group. Today I'd like to talk to you about the murder conviction of the former Army Sergeant Daniel Perry in Texas last week. And that's been in the news a lot lately. The governor's saying he's going to pardon him. And I wanted to talk briefly about this case, what it means to you if you carry, and whether or not a case like this should make you worry. So this case that I'm going to talk about, the information I get, I wasn't involved in the case, I wasn't there, and I don't have firsthand knowledge. This is all information that I'm receiving off of public news outlets and the internet like everybody else. It's not really the case that I want to focus on. It is, but it isn't. I'll explain that in a minute. My focus is on if you conceal carry, if you carry for protection, should you be worried about a case like this? It's important to get a little bit of background on it, whether some information is accurate, some is not accurate. That's kind of irrelevant, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the background is that this former Army sergeant was driving an Uber in Texas, his second job he had to try to make ends meet. He was carrying legally, apparently, and he encountered a group of protesters that were blocking the road. One of the protesters, Garrett Foster, who was supposedly an Air Force veteran himself, was carrying an AK-47. I guess it's legal to carry rifles during protests in Texas. I don't know how smart that is, but apparently it's legal. And they surround his vehicle, and I don't know if words were exchanged, but he says that that Garrett Foster, the victim that was shot and killed, raised his AK-47 at him, and he fired in self-defense. There's the background. This is in 2020. The detective, who's now since retired, he was interviewed and said that the case, he didn't charge him or pursue it because to him it seemed like a simple self-defense situation. The prosecutor had a different idea, though. The prosecutor wanted to indict and did in fact indict. Now, there was question about whether exculpatory evidence was left out of the grand jury, meaning that if they heard this evidence, maybe he wouldn't have been indicted. We can argue that. I don't know if that's true or not. The short story is he got indicted and it went to trial, and a jury of 12 convicted him of murder. During the trial, evidence was brought out by the prosecution that said he had social media posts, Daniel Perry, that is, and I'll just read some of it here. Quote, this is what was in the news. Quote, I might have to kill a few people on my way to work. They are rioting outside my apartment complex, end quote. Quote, I might have to go to Dallas to shoot a looter, end quote. Quote, I only shoot the ones in front and push the pedal to the metal, end quote. These are social media posts that the prosecution obviously obtained when they decided to pursue this matter. This is what's going to happen if you need to use your gun. I hope you never do. We all hope we never have to. And you can take either side. You know, nobody won here. Somebody died, and this guy's convicted of murder. And I'm not comparing the two. I'm not saying one's better or worse than the other. I'm saying that, you know, both sides had guns. A gun is used on one side, and this is the aftermath. The prosecution decides it's not self-defense, and they're going to find whatever they need. Prosecutors see these cases as debates. They ask themselves, can I win this debate? And if the answer is yes or maybe, they get all their evidence and their information to bolster their side to win their debate. That's what, to them, it's a debate. All this stuff, your background will be looked into if you use your gun. So if you've made posts in the past on social media about rioters and then you wind up shooting one, this is what happens. They go back and they say, oh, well, it looks like they paint a picture. That's what the prosecutor does. So the facts really don't matter. So even if this was a case of self-defense, they obviously created a picture for the jury that this man was out to hurt somebody, and he did. When he turned the corner and saw that there was a crowd in the road, could he have turned around? Could he have made a U-turn? Could he have turned down a street? Could he have avoided it? I don't know. But these are the things that are going to be looked at. Did he verbally engage? Now, there were witnesses. Some people say he instigated it. So did he roll his window down and start yelling, get out of my way? I don't know. Did they yell at him? Did he, instead of backing up, did he try to drive forward? Did they get angry that he was trying to drive through the crowd? Obviously, they were blocking the road. That's illegal. You can argue it from both sides. The point with this video is that if you're going to conceal carry, you have to think wisely about your choices. You have to think wisely when you're in a situation like that. What are you going to do? How are you going to react? Because your background will be looked into thoroughly. If the prosecution wants to pursue it, they will look into your background. So even if this is a case of self-defense, and again, while I wasn't there, I wasn't part of the trial, it doesn't look like it was so much, right? It looks like there's a lot here, just what's on the news, that maybe he could have avoided it. Maybe he could have de-escalated it. I don't know. I'm just saying that if there's a chance that could have happened and he didn't do it, then, you know, you can see why it took a turn this way. Now, there's talk that the governor's going to pardon him. And, you know, you can say, well, the district attorney, he's got an agenda. In the end, I don't think the facts of the incident matter so much as the picture that's painted for a jury, whether it's a grand jury or whether it's a jury, trial jury. Just keep that in mind, folks. And this case, you know, again, there are no winners here in this case. Even if it's a true self-defense situation, which I know the former sergeant says it was, and I'm sure they're going to appeal. Just some things to keep in mind, folks, that if you are carrying for self-defense, that gun comes out, if you've made the decision to take your gun out and you've decided that you need to shoot, then that should be your last resort. You should have no other option in that situation, because no matter what's going on in that moment, at that moment, you have to assume that they're going to look into your past. They're going to look into your background. They're going to look into your social media. Even if it's to rule out, hey, we think this was self-defense. Let's just make sure. Let's just do a little background on this person and make sure we're right about our self-defense assumption. And maybe in this case, that's what happened. Maybe initially they all thought, all right, this is self-defense. They surrounded his car. Someone pointed a rifle at him. And maybe initially that was the case. But then, for whatever reason, the prosecution decided, you know what, we're going to look into this guy. And they found some social media posts, and they said, we're going to look into him a little more. And then they decided, based on witness statements and other evidence, that they were going to present it to a grand jury. He was indicted, and then they took it to trial, and he was convicted by a jury of murder. So this is what he's facing now. The governor's saying he's going to pardon him. And of course, you know, people are saying that's wrong. And you need to have the mindset that if that gun comes out and you've made the decision to shoot, it's your only choice. It's your last resort, and you have no other option. That could be a decision you've made in 2 seconds. I mean, it depends. You know, someone could pull a knife on you, a gun. It's a decision that you're going to have to make, and only you can make that decision. But if you've decided to go down that road and I don't know that this happened in this case, but if you've made the decision to drive down the road where you know protesters are blocking the road, and you know you're not going to be able to get through, you know there's going to be a confrontation, whether it's verbal, physical, both, you know where it's going to lead, and you've decided to take that path, you've set yourself on a path that you may not be able to change course. If you're halfway down the road and you see an alley and you can turn, or you can do a K-turn or a U-turn and you can go the other way, I would suggest you go the other way. If you like this video, please hit the like button and share it. Also consider subscribing if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you're notified when we release new videos. Thanks for watching. Take care and stay safe.